They are humanity's most remote outposts, and they regularly keep NASA experts on their toes with serious complications. No man-made object has ever ventured as far into space as the venerable Voyager probes. But the whole truth is that Voyager 1 sent a series of confusing data back to Earth some time ago that scientists simply couldn't make sense of. But what had happened? As is well known, the probes were equipped with the Voyager Golden Records, which also contained a message to extraterrestrials. So could it be that our galactic attempt at contact has finally been answered? Or can the mysterious Voyager messages ultimately be explained in another way? The year is 1977, and the 2 Voyager probes leave Earth. However, spacecraft did not set off into the vastness of space with the aim of one day reaching interstellar space. They were simply sent to gather new information about the outer planets of the solar system, which were still largely unexplored at the time. As a result, no one could have guessed that this was the start of the longest mission in the history of space travel, since our knowledge of the planets was still quite limited. The program did not even have a fixed research focus. Instead, the probes were deliberately given broad objectives in advance. These included analyzing the atmospheres of Jupiter and Saturn, but also examining the moon's magnetic fields and the composition of charged particles and plasma in detail. If everything had gone according to plan, the Voyager spectacle would have been over after just 5 years. But today, we know that the pair of probes ultimately exceeded their originally predicted lifespan, after providing us with groundbreaking and, in some cases, still unique images and data of our outer planetary neighborhood. NASA decided to extend the mission and send Voyager 1 and 2 into a cosmic world that no other man-made object had ever entered before. In August 2012, Voyager 1 became the first space probe in history to enter the mysterious interstellar space and leave the boundaries of the solar system behind. Voyager 2 followed 6 years later. While the flying old-timer is now 20 billion kilometers away from the Sun, its identical sister probe has even put 25 billion kilometers between itself and our host star, the overarching goals of the Voyager interstellar mission include investigating the Sun's magnetic field, and analyzing solar wind and cosmic radiation, and exploring the heliopause, the outer boundary of the Sun's sphere of influence. In other words, the Voyager probes are giving us direct insight into a cosmic area that was previously a great unknown to us. And this is the puzzling part. Not all Voyager data is always so revealing, quite the contrary. Some time ago, experts were confronted with a series of messages that simply did not make sense and immediately sparked the wildest speculation. 3 years ago, Voyager 1 suddenly began sending strangely chaotic telemetry data back to Earth, which initially left experts completely baffled. What was particularly confusing was that no source of interference for the faulty data could be identified, although the information from the attitude control system suggested a system failure. This did not correspond with the fact that the probe was otherwise functioning smoothly. It continued to transmit data from its scientific instruments and responded, as usual, to commands from Earth. Specifically, the Attitude, Articulation, and Control System, AACS, is a fundamental component that performs a number of basic tasks. These include aligning the powerful main antenna, which must always point precisely toward Earth in order to maintain communication with Voyager, one across enormous distances. While Earth-based scientists use this radio link to send commands to the space probe, the probe uses it to send data it has collected back to Earth. But, as mentioned, the data had been reduced to a meaningless jumble. The first thought was that Voyager's main antenna is no longer pointing towards Earth, but that wasn't the case. The signal strength of the radio connection remained high. In the weeks that followed, NASA experts worked tirelessly to find the source of the error, and the internet used the time to come up with some astonishing theories about Voyager's chopped-up data. What was really behind the strange signals? Mentioned earlier, the ancient probes are also carrying a very special cargo, 2 gold-plated copper records, which serve as a kind of cosmic greeting message to extraterrestrial life forms. The Voyager Golden Records are intended to convey the diversity of life and culture on Earth. To this end, They contain greetings in over 50 languages, music from different eras, sounds of nature and daily life on Earth, dozens of images. However, simply finding this sign of human life would be far from enough for a hypothetical alien civilization. First, they would have to decode the records using the instructions on the protective cover. These use binary representations and information about the hydrogen atom as a unit of time to enable decryption. If they succeed, the finders would know that there is a planet called Earth out there that has produced some fascinating creatures. Unfortunately, this could also turn out to be a great danger, since the golden records also reveal our position. In the universe, it would be easy for a hostile civilization to use the information to prepare a devastating invasion. Fortunately, this scenario remains just an unpleasant thought experiment for now. Partly because 3 years ago, no warlike aliens were involved in the data chaos surrounding Voyager 1. Contrary to adventurous speculation, the probe was not reprogrammed and sent back to us with a declaration of war in its data. So what was the problem? To cut a long story short, NASA engineers discovered that the attitude control system was actually working perfectly, except that it was mistakenly trying to send telemetry data to Earth via an onboard computer that had long since stopped working. As a result, the data arrived as meaningless junk. After identifying the error, NASA used the radio antennas of the Deep Space Network to instruct the AACS to send the data to the correct onboard computer. This was successful, but the question remained: what caused the attitude control system to default to the wrong computer in the first place? The answer lay in the flight data subsystem, a computer that packs the data into packets before sending it to Earth. As it turned out, 3% of the memory was defective, and it may have been a single chip that caused the chaos. This could have been hit by a high-energy particle or simply worn out over time. Still, the Voyager missions, their extraterrestrial messages, and their mechanical challenges continue to fascinate us. If we return to the golden records and turn the cosmic tables, an inevitable question arises. Could it be that signs of life or messages intended for us have already been picked up? If you're even remotely interested in the subject, you've probably heard that the James Webb Space Telescope recently made a sensational discovery. It detected a molecule on the water world K218b that is produced exclusively by living organisms on Earth. More specifically, it is dimethyl sulfide and/or dimethyl disulfide. However, it's not yet clear whether this necessarily means that K218b has given rise to life. Experts are currently investigating whether the supposed biosignature could have been created by abiotic means. Until that question is answered, still have time to flip back the calendar to the summer of 1977. That year was not only when Voyager was launched. Astrophysicist Jerry R. Emmon also recorded a remarkable narrowband radio signal that continues to keep experts in suspense to this day. The following shows why the American scientists uttered a shocked wow. At the time, still the most promising candidate when it comes to the possibility of an extraterrestrial message, the narrowband signal showed striking similarities to signals normally generated using antennas. However, the exact background of the so-called wow signal has always remained uncertain because it was never received again. Furthermore, we don't even know where it came from, partly because Ohio State University's Big Ear radio telescope only picked up the signal with one of its 2 antennas. As a result, it was not possible to identify the source of the signal more precisely. A few years ago, however, a Spanish amateur astronomer announced that he had finally solved the mystery of its origin. More specifically, Alberto Caballero took a close look at the Gaia star catalog and focused on sun-like stars, understandably so. Since the only life we know of orbits such a star, Caballero concluded that the WOW signal most likely originated from the region around a star with the scientific name 2 MASS 192-819-822-64123. This star is located about 1,800 light-years away from us in the constellation Sagittarius. According to Caballero, the star meets all the criteria for serving as the central star for life-friendly planets. And on one of these, an extraterrestrial civilization could have flourished, one that perhaps sent a strong radio signal into space and attempted to make contact with other worlds and life forms.